right, hello, bros in studio, bros in the internet somewhere, bros on the moon, who knows? Thanks for joining us today. I'm Carson Corman. This is...
I'm Anna Plattis.
I'm Petula Caesar.
Yeah, and we are here to give you a whole rundown of the whole pitch party process and what we do here at the Bros in terms of selecting our original rock operas and our original programming. I have a little bit of Bros business before we get started. Welcome to Bros HQ. If you're online, you're seeing Bros HQ, a portion of it at least. And if you are here and you need the bathroom, bathrooms are in that direction. If you're at home, good luck. This is the home for all of our original productions and all of our, community meetings and stuff like that. We don't generally do our productions here, but we do a lot of our workshopping, our building, our all sorts of stuff goes on in this space. There are also beverages over there if you need one. They're in the fridge at home. Again, good luck. I hope you have your provisions. Please stick around afterward. We're going to do some Q&A after we do our presentation, and we just love to chat and talk and meet everybody here. I see some familiar faces, which I'm glad to see, but I'm also glad to see ones that I don't recognize, so that's awesome. Another note is that we have our big volunteer meeting for Glitterous on March 24th. It is going to be online, like right now, and at HQ, like right now. So it'll be a similar type of forum. This will be our volunteer meeting, which means that we're going to talk about roles needed for the upcoming show production calendar and all of the different things that we're going to need to fill spots for, and that's a really important part of the beginning of our production. So hope to see as many people as we can there. I think last but not least for our business is to talk about Clue, which we are in the middle of a Clue intro right now. So this is part of our Community Level Up Experiences workshop program. The idea here is that we are curating workshops for creatives within the Bros community and outside for free to them to join. Some will be virtual, some will be in person. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of a spread of both. We're trying to cover topics of all sorts of creative arts needs, things that involve technical skills, things that involve writing, things that involve performing. We're starting there, and we're using a lot of our community contacts, which has been really wonderful, not necessarily Bros, but a lot of really excellent artists and makers in the community of Baltimore. And the goal here is to kind of keep bringing people in. We're really looking for new people to come and learn new skills, workshop some new ideas, do all sorts of different things, and hopefully come away with like a new level of abilities from this experience here. So that's really what our goal is here, most of which will be hosted here at Bros HQ, but we're just getting started, and hopefully we'll see where it takes us. That being said, it brings us to our topic for today, the Pitch Party 2022. So to get started, I'm just going to give us some basic background on what the Pitch Party is. What is the Pitch Party? And it is an event that happens annually. It did not happen during the pandemic, for pandemic reasons, obviously. But it's happened annually since 2012. And it's an actual showcase of anyone. This is not just Bros specific. Anyone who has to pitch, or would like to pitch an original idea to the Bros. It's very much the way that the community gets their voice heard and then gets their voice projected by the Bros. Pitchers are generally given a 15-minute slot, so it's usually something to, within a time limit to make it fair for as many people as possible. Virtual pitchers this year will have the ability to be simulcasted in, which is really excellent. So if anybody does or has been kind of holding out because they weren't sure if they could be there, we are going to try to accommodate those if we do get pitches. This is our main source of ideas for the calendar, for our Bros programming calendar. This is where we get ideas. Specifically, we're looking for main stage rock operas here, but it's also a wonderful forum to get your ideas into the Bros canon in some capacity. It could be pitching themes, it could be pitching larger story arcs. If they don't get picked in this forum, oftentimes these ideas do come out in other ways. And it's a great opportunity to workshop in some ways your ideas, because while people might come out and do it once, they might refine their idea. They might see some new details that they'd like to include, new features that other people included. Maybe they come back next year with an even bigger, better, similar idea, which really, looks more polished too. So it's a really good opportunity for people to, learn from our community in general about how we share our creative ideas and really what, gets across the plate. And I'm going to reinforce this multiple times, that one of the more important aspects of the Pitch Party is this is where our community gets to decide what the Bros programs look like, right? This is the community pitching original ideas, which really ensure that Bros is part of a community voice in general. It really is their ideas. They're original. They're coming from people within our ranks or outside that we want to join us and, really make their idea big and crazy and bros and cool. So that's really important. Next slide.
Oh, this one's me. What does a good pitch contain? And it's really right there in the pitch application, which you'll be looking at when you submit your pitches. It's very limited. There's only the 5 questions because these simple elements are like the most important things, and those are an overview of your storyline. Design, we're a very design heavy company, so design elements are really important. Characters are really important. That's what people connect to in your story. And again, we're a musical theater company, so music is very, very important. So those are the really strong things. And then of course, Bros shows are always known for their some big, impossible, epic thing that we put into our shows. So something that makes the production original, exciting, or captivating. We call that epicosity sometimes. And then you can always include in your pitch other things. Sometimes people send us links to MP3s or include images in the pitch. Of course, if you get chosen to go to the pitch party and you're presenting in front of everyone, those things are essential to have music and visuals and all those things. But even just in the pitch form, when you're sending to us, include whatever you want, just send us extra stuff. You never know. You never know what'll be exciting. And then next slide. Good things to include. So the first part was kind of like what is good to include in your application. Those are the things that we're looking for. And then this is a little bit more about what's a good thing to include at the pitch party when you're on that second round and you're in front of that audience. Everyone presents a slideshow. It's really good to include concept artwork. If you're not an artist, you can always kind of do Google image search of images that are close. For Space Kumite, when we presented that, we just used pictures of real wrestlers, because we didn't, we had some concept art, but we also included just images of the kind of flavor that we wanted to include. We've had people perform live music at the pitch party. We've had people sing, or you could also just, if you have music and you just want to play it from a file, that's also cool. But hearing the music helps people really get that that mood. An example of a routine, we've had dance routines at the pitch party before too. Those things are just so exciting, and you're trying to engage the crowd and get them to vote for your idea. So anything that you can make it exciting or kind of a happening is really, really encouraged.
And something to add real quick, I note, is that if you are going to send multimedia in with your application, please try to send it to us. Email it to us. Make sure you let us know where links to those types of things are. It helps us when we're selecting the pitches for the pitch party itself, really get a good idea of what's going to be brought to the table. It can be limited in those 5 questions, so adding those types of things is very helpful in a sense. So we're actually going to watch a couple of examples right now of some good pitches from the past, things that really have kind of been I don't want to say exemplary examples, but really
a
kind of
variety.
Hit a variety of different options and things that you can kind of present.
Okay. So this is ooh, okay, cool. Look at that graphic. I love it. The second annual pitch party in 2012. I like that we have the posters too. A little history moment. This is Chuck Green pitching Electric Pharaoh, which was our fall 2014 show.
It's called, the idea is called Electric Pharaoh. I found this nice bottle of scotch with an ankh on it. Drink a little bit of it. Okay, so the show is called Electric Pharaoh. This idea so far, the concept has come to be a world that's become very deep, and 2 characters.
A nice graphic there.
Each other. Sort of a hero's tale. Can we go to the next slide? All right, where we are, it says the future of ancient Egypt. This is Egypt in the future, but it's stylized like ancient Egypt. The way the world is built, this place is called New Memphis. In the future, energy is scarce. Fossil fuels are gone, and you can't get solar power anymore because of the nuclear winter. We'll work on that idea, but energy is scarce, and one city that has a lot of it is New Memphis. They have these pyramids that they've converted into batteries. So we got these giant glowing blue pyramid batteries. One of the important points here is that the currency that people are paid in and trade in is electricity. Volts are like our idea of the dollar. You have these batteries that are like your wallet. It's like a super high capacity battery, but shaped like a talisman, or an Egyptian symbol, and it stores all of your money, your volts. You get paid in volts. You use it to power your house and your vehicle to get to work and all of that. Can we have the next slide? The first character I want to talk about is Chenzira, Chenzi for short. He has a special power where he can generate electricity through his fingers, and he doesn't know why.
So
He's always been
things I
this
want
way.
to point out in
The way he is, he's I've got 3 words for him: angsty, torn, and hero. He's an anarchist.
A couple of
He
things I want
opposes
to
the
point out
pharaoh
in this
who,
are
pharaoh sort of
different tools that Chuck's using
everyone follow, like,
to
one
get
religion.
his idea across. One was
pharaoh's
he found a
worship
whiskey
the
bottle
pharaoh,
with an
pharaoh's
ankh on
god,
it. I think
but
that we're
his
the
friends,
bros. That's going to
worship
be a
the
good
light
hit
force,
in
which has no
general.
god, and they
But
do so
he
in
has a
a
lot of
pub that's
descriptors
also
and things that are very
very
visual based,
symbolic
right? He's talking
here.
about pyramids that
You know,
glow
fear fuels
blue
the
and money
ignorance
that
that
has
gets you
Egyptian
close to the light.
symbols on it, and his
He's also got
presentation,
a
which
dying
is a
mother
slideshow.
who he supports
I
through
mean, he
his
went
superpower that
the
nobody knows
in
about. He charges
very
a
Chuck
talisman
Green
for his
fashion.
hands when
It made it
she's
very
She wakes
jazzy
up
looking,
and
but
she's
in
okay,
general
all
it
of a
has
sudden
all
she
of the
has,
effective information that we
money
really
to
want to
say
know.
goodbye on the
It
next
talks
day.
about setting very
He flexes
clearly.
like this
It
way, doesn't tell anybody
outlines
about his
concepts for
superpower.
characters, all of the really important
The other
visual
character that I was
building
working on is called the Pharaoh. I have
images
three words
or
for him:
image
mystery,
building
Machiavellian,
details.
and
Here's another
honest.
example.
His face is never seen. We don't
The
Which was
pharaoh, and I think that was actually, I think he had
the
made
secret that the
that
pharaoh-
little
the
model
pharaoh
of the
was
pharaoh
the
helmet
secret
Yeah, I
to
think it was a
start off.
mock-up.
Yeah.
And it ended up looking like that, which
Or
was really
triangle.
incredible too. So I mean,
The
that's the
secret
kind
of
of like
is that the
we don't want
pyramids,
people to
the
limit
batteries
how
are
forward-thinking
actually
they are in
almost
terms of
dead,
design or anything
thanks
like
to the
that. I mean,
pharaoh.
obviously not all of us have the ability to make something like that, but that's a great example. Here's another one.
Yeah, I want to say it kind of grabs people in multiple directions. He's talking about the visuals of the show because I said like we're a very visual heavy company, so he's talking about it's dark. There's all these light effects, and that I think really appealed to people about Electric Pharaoh. But then he's also digging into like these characters, and this is the main character, Chenzira. Chenzira takes care of his mother. His best friend is in the revolution. He really kind of goes at it from both heart and sort of like surface detail. And we have this really cool picture of Electric Pharaoh on the wall right here of like what it ended up looking like. Maybe we'll hold that up to the screen later you can come up and look at it, and you can kind of see how those little graphics that he had of the pharaoh helmet actually is what it ended up looking like
It definitely
in
came
the
through.
polished version. Yeah, it was a great show. Next we have Love and Roar, pitched by Chris Ruther, which is our show coming up for 2023. Oh, montage. Okay. But Chris is here if you want to ask anything about that. What is show? Yeah. Shout out to Chris. Okay. Yeah.
Love and Roar is a romantic comedy. It's a romantic comedy. Think basically in the movies of Edgar Wright. That sort of comedy style right there. The twist is this is a romantic comedy with kaiju. Kaiju, for those of you who may not know, kaiju are monsters, giant monsters. Rodan, Mothra, King Kong, Gamera, Gorgo. 1954. One sunny morning, the citizens of Bay City find themselves completely overrun with giant monsters that just come out of the ocean. A crazy young librarian who finds herself being dumped on the worst possible day ever. Basically, her relationship is crumbling at the same time that her home is.
Imagine a wondrous world where the sun doesn't rise for weeks at a time. The cold will freeze your skin black in 30 seconds flat, and the only inhabitants are people crazy enough to scale a near vertical mountain pass in the obsessive hunt for gold. The sets and the costumes in the saloon need to look like they were spun from gold and wrapped in velvet and dipped in diamonds and then dusted with even more gold for good measure. Nothing in moderation. And everything's a little surreal, like Tim Burton meets Moulin Rouge. This is the part where our characters leave the relative safety of the visible known world for the terror of the unknown world. Dangers lurk in every shadow, and one of those shadows holds the legendary giant ice worm. The battle will be epic. We need a monster big enough and frightening enough to scare the audience, and agile enough for a riveting battle that will leave everyone guessing as to whether or not our heroes will prevail.
It's a show about dreams, music, and mother-felting puppets. Story time. It's a really long plot summary. Most of it's on the back of your paper. I encourage you to read that. But it's about a guy who plays in a band. When he goes to sleep, he wakes up in a crazy puppet world. They're playing psych rock music. It's crazy. He brings it back into the real world. He becomes famous. Is he stealing? Is it not? Who knows? But it makes a lot of people really greedy and money hungry, like us. Our monsters are living instruments. Our villains are the personification of greed and extortion. Our ensembles, dancers, musicians, media personalities. It is a Bros look into the history of rock and roll. It is a modern period piece. It's Bros takes on The Muppet Show and Yellow Submarine, and it is mostly a story about what the consequences of the struggle between artistic integrity and commercial success are, something that I know we all feel in our hearts. Hey, look, some visual feasting. Get it, Barbie? Work. This is our world. It's set in the 1960s California. Surf rock is king. This is what Shakespeare looks like. It's crazy. Look at all those giant puppets. It's Sesame Street. It's H.R. Puffin stuff. It's fucking Teletubbies. It is giant, life-size puppets. We made one for Kroner Shred. We made one for Sidelines. I'm talking about a world built out of different sized puppets. Every puppet you can think of. It's a fucking bass guitar, but it's also a puppet. This guy has so many drums on his back. He's so cool. That's a xylophone skirt. Are you even following me? There is a puppet that is just a hi-hat that sits on top of someone's head that goes ching, ching, ching instead of talking. It's amazing.
So on all three of those pitches, which were eventually chosen for main stage rock operas, we have a lot of different features that were really clearly shown in a lot of different ways. And I think that we wanted to show those, first of all, because it does give an idea of what could be the modality that you show your show in. We saw tons of great visuals, both original visuals that were sketched by artists who were either working on the pitch or things from the internet, stuff that helps build an idea, gives it a general feel that, you know, maybe we're not going to take those exact, you know, images necessarily into mind with concept art, but they do help build that picture, which is really important to those who are watching the pitch party and then the rest of the Bros community in general to be able to get an idea of what you're trying to sell. Anything?
Yeah, I wanted to say that a couple of those shows, Gold Night and Shakespeare, were both pitched more than once. So, like, they went to pitch party. You know, it's a voting process, but people remember. And then when they come back the next time, they're like, I did really love that idea. Or sometimes we've even, you know, asked people to pitch again, you know, when we've been a little low on pitches. I specifically asked Jessica 2 different years, could you pitch Golden Night again? And the first time she was like, I don't have time for it this year. And the second time it was like, please. So, yeah, if you don't get picked the first time, or if you don't go through the first time, these ideas still kind of live on in our world. And, you know, sometimes it's just not an idea's time, but it would be a year later. So if you've pitched in the past, you know, we still in the Artistic Council sometimes we'll talk about old ideas that people pitched in the past and like things we liked about them. So those old ideas we're always willing to hear them again. It's very important to note.
Definitely. I think it's actually really important to keep in mind that we can only pick a couple, right? You know, we could pick one maybe that year, which is not us saying we don't want the other ones, which is kind of the hard part from Bros, you know, from the Artistic Council's point of view, and then from the Bros community point of view, is that I think we can't take them all, and we want to. So that's why we might ask people to repitch. And it is kind of important that they, or I like to leave that opportunity open. I think it's really important that we do that for people in general, because things evolve, and you can still get your voice out there.
And sometimes the vote is really close. You know,
Yes.
like it's a vote.
Yeah, and it's like we just
And
gotta pick one.
Yeah,
you know?
one wins.
Yeah.
And there have been times, I think, even that, like I think the Chronoshed year or something where we're like, we'll just do more shows.
Yeah.
We kind of learned our lesson, but you know, sometimes it's not always necessarily just one thing. Like we said, sometimes these ideas come back out in parties or small events or smaller shows. Sometimes fall
definitely.
shows.
Yeah, and we're gonna keep talking about that. Is that those ideas enter our bros headcanon, so to speak, and definitely can find their outlet in many different ways. So, do you have anything to add, Petula?
I'm probably gonna jump in on like the next slide or two coming up.
Cool.
so.
Yeah. All right. So go to the next slide real quick because I think that's our last one with Anna.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Why do shows get selected? They have original and well thought out story arcs. Yeah, we really, you know, it's in our mission statement. Bros produces original rock theater, so I think we're always striving to have something that's completely ours that we can make together. So originality is really important to us as a community. They include concept artwork and propels the idea. I think, when people can, you know, you saw it in Chuck's example in Gold Night. People were really creating a world. You know, like when they describe the setting and the characters, they really try to create the world and try to give you an idea that you can get excited about. So, you know, the more you can show, the more you can describe, the more sounds you can give people, things that can help them envision a show that they want to get involved in, you know, because like that's what the community, when our community is voting, they're saying, I want to make that, you know, I want to be a part of that. I want to do that. So, and then shows get selected sometimes because we always like to do things that are new and different. So sometimes, you know, like with Love and Roar, we've done a lot of creatures, but we never did a giant creature. You know, we never did a creature crushing a city before. And I think that was so excited because I think Bros community specifically is always trying to create things on stage that they don't see in other theaters and they don't see in other shows, you know, things that are, you know, different, exciting. Almost impossible, maybe. Yeah.
Next slide.
Okay. The types of shows that generally end up at the pitch party, puppetry based, as you see, Bros love puppets, so an opportunity to do puppets, it's always a good time for us. Shadow outdoor. Bros did a shadow showdown that was really well received and popular with the community. So if that is what you're thinking, that some sort of shadow show is what you want to pitch, it is certainly not a bad idea. Immersive theater, musical and or dance review, video-based, party-based, fundraising event themes. Although I know for a lot of folks when they want to pitch, the idea is to get their show onto the stage, you know, as a main stage rock opera. But the pitch party is also an opportunity just to get your creativity into the Bros community in general. As we've already said, a lot of times an idea is pitched and folks will ask for it to come back or ask folks to repitch it after they've maybe revisited it, looked at it a little bit more, grown it a little bit, and have brought it back. And perhaps it was more successful the second or third time. The pitch party is really an opportunity to get the ideas that kind of exist in your head out into a space with other creatives that can hopefully help elevate your idea. So even if you pitch something and let's say it wasn't selected, it is quite likely or possible that it could show up, as we've said, in some other Bros on stage, something or other. So I understand for a lot of folks, you know, getting the main stage big rock opera is the goal. But there are other opportunities to collaborate within this process that are just as important and that can be just as effective and satisfying. It's really just an idea of building community. As someone who is a creative, there's always that point where you have to take the idea you've created and share it with other folks to see what you can build with it. This is your opportunity to do that. So yes, pitch your show, and maybe it will end up being selected. Even if it's not, there are still amazing opportunities to collaborate, to build, to elevate. So please, 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 that's why we really want you to pitch all the ideas, all the crazy ideas, because part of what we want to do at Bros is try new, crazy, interesting stuff. That's kind of what we do. We really enjoy that kind of thing. So even if you have an idea that you feel like doesn't fall in line with what you've seen here or what you've seen Bros do in the past, pitch it anyway. Who knows what it might grow into? There are certainly kernels of things that have shown up in pitch parties and just in the Bros community in general that ended up being amazing things on stage and nobody saw it coming. And you could be a part of that process just by pitching. So yes, I understand you want to get to the main stage, but being a part of this process can lead to so many other things as well. So that's my personal pitch for you to pitch your ideas. And even if you don't make it to the pitch party process, you can still come out to the event and check out the pitches that did make it through, and that might give you some ideas about what you might want to do differently if you decide to reapply in the future. The point is, we really want you to be involved in the process, whatever that looks like, because I am pretty sure that the possibility for collaboration could happen for you and could help you grow your idea, whatever that ends up looking like. Next slide.
Is this one me?
Yes.
Okay. So how do pitches get selected? First, you submit them through the online form, which will be available to you lots of places. It'll be in No Floaters. It'll be on Bros Book. But basically, all the links will take you back to the same place, which is BaltimoreRockOpera.org. Our main website will have a link to submit the form to submit your pitches. And then those will all come to the Artistic Council. And we will read them all and have a long discussion. It's our longest AC meeting of the year, but it is. Yes. It's so worth it. You know, we really do take our time. We really do read through everything, and just kind of debate the merits of it. You know, we all kind of get passionate about individual pitches that and you know kind of push them through the votes, rounds and rounds and rounds. We usually narrow down to about 5 to 7 pitches. I think most pitch parties there's been 6. I think sometimes there's been 7. Sometimes there's been fewer if we just got fewer pitches in. Then at the next, the night of the pitch party, anyone who comes to the pitch party at the Crown can vote, whether they're technically a bro or not, or whether they're in our community or not. Anyone who comes to the party and watches all the pitches, they can vote that night at the party. And then next, finally, the Bros community has an opportunity to vote for a whole month. So those are votes that are submitted online. And the Bros community is anyone who has ever volunteered for a show ever. So the voting thing will just be, Bros staff, Bros captains, anyone who has participated in Bros before. So the form just says, what's your real name? And have you worked with Bros before? And we've never thrown out a vote. You know what I mean? It's, I think a lot of times, when we talk about like everybody's a bro, people will be like, oh, not me. I only volunteered one time. And it's like, no, you're one of us forever. So those votes are open for a month. Everyone can only vote once. And, that's the votes that are counted. We actually use a what is it called? Runoff voting process, right? Ranked choice voting. So that means that you put down your first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice. It's how they do elections in some countries, so that even if your first choice is a show that only gets a few votes, your vote still counts towards your next choice, however it shakes out.
Mm-hmm. I will add one thing too, that if you anybody who watches online as well, the pitch party will also get to vote that night. So that would be anybody, right? So that's out even people who didn't have those Bros contacts in the past.
Yeah, virtually watching the pitch party is the same as being at the Crown. I know I said at the Crown too many times.
Next slide.
Oh, where can the Bros community vote?
No, I'll take you to /pitch party.
Yeah, so yeah, they all, like I said before, you know, those links, just like the link to pitch is in all of these places, the link to vote will also be on all these places, but it'll all lead you back to the Bros website, which is where it'll happen.
Oh, and kind of the last bit of formal information, we'll take a bunch of questions after this, is our timeline of the production. So every year we go through this timeline after we choose whatever pitch is going to head to the main stage. It is generally about a 2-year process, but let's use this year for example. So in May of this year, we hope to announce the winning pitch. And then by summer, the writing and composition team will be selected in tandem with the pitch team, and initial writing meetings will start. So the idea is to get the ball rolling as soon as possible to make sure that writing is completed through spring 23. The first draft of the script will need to be completed at that time. There'll be a very specific set date for when that is to happen. First read through with the artistic council member, the Bros, will happen. First music demos will start to get written. They'll get workshopped at that time. In summer 23, the second full script rewrite will all have to be completed, and the director and the music director will be selected at that juncture. By winter, the final script should be completed, hopefully maybe even before that, and approved by all team members, and Bros moves it into production, and that's when we really start to get into full force. All songs are demoed, arranging work is being, completed at that point. Early in 24, January, February, casting, production, teams chosen, design work has already begun probably, but is being put in earnest. Between that time and May, the production, rehearsal, everything's going, builds is all going, and then we have our production in May of 2024. Hopefully opening night would happen that May. And that's our general timeline. So, yeah, you do pitch, but it takes a couple years to make the show, and you get that whole massive calendar of people and just the full Bros force that comes behind you when that gets selected. And we are left with questions. So we are going to take any questions from anybody that is here in person. So does anybody here in person have any questions specifically that they would like to ask? Michael. Is the timeline slide available? Yeah, we can make the timeline slide available online. Definitely, it'll be part of this online. Going to streaming too, so you'll be able to stream and watch that. And I think we generally have this.
Yes, we're trying to put all possible material on BaltimoreRockOpera.org/pitch party, so we can pretty easily embed the slideshow, and this YouTube video from what we're streaming out will be online as well.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all the stuff that we see that you've seen on today will be put online on the pitch party on the BaltimoreRockOpera.org website. So you'll be able to find. We'll get some of these slide things up there. So any information will be up there. Did we have any questions from the chat?
Kind of followed up. I followed up. Shout out some answers to Andy, but if you want to shout out Andy, that was the question: was original content and amount of dialogue versus music.
You want to feel that one?
Yeah, I can. Well, actually, I'll let you go first, and then I'll follow up.
Yeah, was the question, I was just going to repeat also because Aaron's not on mic, but we have an online question about original content and...
Does the new rock opera need to be unperformed?
Oh, does it need to be unperformed? Okay, yeah, we were talking about this ahead of time a little bit.
We talked about that. I guess first we'd really want to define what performed means. Did you maybe do some monologues from the show you have in your head at an open mic? Was it a full-scale production that you were involved in somewhere else, and you would just be bringing that production to Bros? So I think it would really, part of the conversation would be around, when you say performed in the past, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, I know for a fact that the Battle of Blue Apple Crossing, which is a show that we did in 2015 in the Rock Opera Six Pack, and then again in 2018 in Constellations and Crossroads, written by Nairobi Collins. I know that that concept was part of a show that he had written in college and kind of had been working and reworking. So, yeah, it maybe not exactly that piece had been performed before, but like it was, a pre-existing piece of art in that way. So we have done things that are, adaptations of older pieces, as long as it's your intellectual property, that you're pitching.
Yeah,
and
I
not
would say
something else.
copyright is like the big thing that we also need to be wary of if somebody else owns that or not. So, and the other question was
music versus dialogue percentage.
Oh, percentage of the question was how much music versus dialogue percentage is appropriate in a pitch. Does it question? Yeah, there's no.
I think that's open. I mean, yeah. If I think we'd be open to doing a show that was, opera style with almost no words. I think it is kind of traditionally, it has been kind of hard to understand the lyrics. Sometimes I think sometimes it helps people, hear a little bit better when things are spoken also, but there's kind of no rules. We're open to all kinds of ideas.
I would say a big theme is don't limit any idea in general, without the exceptions that we've maybe discussed, which are more legal, logistical. Any idea that gets put up there will get a huge audience of listeners at least. You'll get other people to give you feedback almost assuredly. If you do come with too much music, let's say, I don't know if that's even possible, but let's say that's the case, you're going to get a note on that, and again, like we super encourage repitching, so you may be able to get the right note that'll bring you back next year to get the show made,
Right. I guess what I'd sort of add to as far as music versus dialogue is that I think the core concept of whatever you're pitching needs to be something that can be visually represented well on the stage. So if the music can be visually represented well on the stage, that could make for a good pitch, although some kernel of story in there is helpful. I know people do ask a lot about the Funktopia show, which was definitely a weird hybrid thing for Bros, but I think it's an example of a show that kind of led with the music and the story was in there. Now, because it was a hybrid show and it was basically a cover show, a tribute show, the music was music the audience was familiar with, which is why wrapping the kernel of the story around a tribute show worked, because that music was familiar to the audience. When you're doing original music, which is what we really encourage for the pitch, it would be a little bit different. But I would still say pitch it, because again, that is something that could perhaps grow with, input from artistic council and other collaborators you might meet along the way in the pitching process. So pitch everything, because if chances are there's something in there that might grow up to be a thing, we just don't know when or how that would happen, which is kind of the fun part of being at Bros. It's like we don't always know how things happen. They just do, and they're great. So just, pitch it.
Yeah, I think pitch your pitch.
Yeah.
That's our theme here. Yeah. Don't hold anything back in that term. Do we have any other online Q&A? We have a couple that we kind of had in the bag in case anybody were to ask these types of questions, because we've gotten them in the past. So the first is my idea too short or too long in general?
I think it's really important, whether it's this pitch or whether it's a proposal that you're submitting for a grant or a job application or a cover letter or whatever. You have to imagine that thing that you've written is in a big stack of papers with other things that other people have written. So it's not, no one's gonna, you might be on the very top of the stack and they'll read you absolutely fresh, but for most people it's going to be somewhere in that stack, right? So if you make something that's really long, you're not going to get it's hard. I'm not saying we won't read it. We will absolutely read it, but you kind of have to imagine where it lands in that stack. It's a comparison process, so sometimes what's going to stick in your mind is those ones that are kind of those concise elevator pitches where you think like, man, that show with the underwater vampires, like that was so cool. You know, like that's going to stick in your head. And sometimes the long paper that you read through, the details will kind of get muddled down and you won't stand out as much as the others. Same thing with a pitch that's really short. I would really encourage everyone not to leave any of those 5 questions blank, you know, because in a comparison process, your answer is not going to hold up against somebody else's answer. So yeah, I would answer all the questions kind of in about a paragraph or 2, but not really go much beyond that, just because it is it gets muddled.
Yeah. I think that too short would mean that you're not building the world maybe enough. Think of it like that. If you skip a question on the form, you're doing less of that world building in a sense for us, like, you know, and like we've said in the past, and I'll elaborate, or I'll say again, is that music is important. We are the Baltimore Rock Opera Society, so that inclusion is a very important aspect. So you can build world with those types of things too. So if you didn't think music ahead of time, think that before you start submitting that post, because it really can help build up a proper picture in a sense. Let's see. Oh, the other question is, what roles do pitchers usually take during the production process? And I think that this is an interesting question because there isn't a specific role that the pitchers end up taking. If you would like to be part of that final writing team, and that's where you kind of want to stop, that's great. If you would like to go on and discuss your experiences with doing aspects of direction or composition or any other aspect of the production, it's your idea that we are building here, right? So we really want to make sure that we're doing our best to give you as much of a voice that we're able to, and that you're able to kind of fulfill, which is really great for a lot of people. In some ways, it's like choose your own adventure in terms of how far you're going to get in. We generally will bring in our when we're talking about building the team for everything like that, we'll bring in the experience that is needed to kind of get it to the next step, which is really like an important aspect to keep in mind, is that even if you are a writer by yourself, we're going to bring on somebody from either the staff or the artistic council or a captain or somebody who's had experience with this field to kind of keep pushing the whole process forward and make sure that we have the whole community of bros voice behind the whole thing.
Yeah, I think we talked about earlier how pitchers tend to be good at one thing.
Totally.
So they have one core skill that they bring to the thing, and they might want to do that thing throughout the building out of the production, but the person that pitches certainly does not have to do everything.
No way.
And they don't necessarily have to bring a team who can do everything,
Yeah.
because that's part of the collaborative process, is that, if you have the one thing that I write, that's what I do, you can be a part of that. And, we'll bring in other collaborators to help build out the rest. So
Yeah. And I mean, even in those pitches we watched, you could see kind of in some ways that there were specific skills that were brought to the front right ahead. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Design skills, music specific, or just world building skill. I think in some ways that is one of the skills that, it's a design aspect in some respects, but that is really important and can be what you do in some ways, and we find that role for you.
Yeah, you can have pretty much whatever role you want as long as you are able to do it. I mean, if you've never done theater before and you want to be the director, we'll probably have someone co-direct it with you. We'll boost up the skills where necessary. But yeah, you pretty much get to choose your role if you get your pitch chosen.
We have another question. Yeah, what's up? That was our next question. So, what was your name?
I'm Nick.
Nick just asked in the audience, what happens to the show or all the stuff that was created after the production is over, right? That's the question correctly? So our next question was, if your pitch goes to production, do you own what you've created? Yeah, that was excellent job, Nick. We've been talking about this quite a bit. This is something that Bros has been kind of evolving over time. There is a specific name for this, but we've decided is that you own what you've created, right? We own the recordings. We own any of the physical, tangible production that we've videoed, but the idea is, again, was your idea, and it's your creative expression, which in some ways makes it your, I don't know if I want to call it property specifically, because there are different aspects to it that go on, but you are free to do it again. I think we said, like, you know, if we saw somebody do one of our shows and then we saw it happen again at another theater on Broadway, we would be pretty damn excited, right? So, I mean, think of it in that kind of capacity. There are tangible artifacts that we will own because more than likely we paid for them, things like recordings, things like that. But that doesn't exclude them from being produced elsewhere or again. Yeah. And we might even do it again. We've done a couple of things that we've done twice.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're usually better the second time around. Too.
Yeah. Just like pitches end up being, yeah.
We're at 59 minutes. We can keep going a little bit longer, maybe.
One
thing we could do is I forgot to play the pitch promo video. So
Sure.
we could play that, and then maybe we could just stick around and do like more of like a casual open session.
Yeah, so we are going to wrap it up now for the stream, correct?
Leave the stream up.
The stream might be up. We're going to wrap up our workshop aspect of it, but we're going to have some more meet and greet if we need anything. We're going to watch our pitch party promo, and I just want to say thank you to Petula and Anna and everybody who showed up. Look, there's people here looking at us. It's really wonderful. Happy to see eyes smizing, and thank you again.
Baltimore is a romantic comedy.
See, instead of talking, it's amazing. It's a show about dreams, music, and mother-felting puppets.
We got these giant glowing pyramid batteries.